So I have here with me Mr. Markus Witting, Vice President, ZF Asia Pacific. Welcome to ETAuto.
Thank you.
So since you take care of the aftermarket part of the business also globally for ZF, could you please share with us what are the emerging trend in aftermarket space for markets like India and other emerging markets?
Well, I think we have a couple of trends. If you look at India in particular, I think the car park is changing. So you have European, Japanese cars coming in compared to the domestic cars. But you also see that now more and more models will increase the complexity for dealers to handle the different spare parts. And if you look in the midterm, I think e-commerce, e-tailing, how spare parts will be distributed, will play a crucial role for the aftermarket business and especially for the traditional distribution channel.
So if suppose there's a traditional OEM manufacturer, if he wants to venture into aftermarket space in countries like India and other Asian markets, which are the area, which are the parts, which are the products range where they can make a good fortune?
Well, I think that depends on the OEM maker. For us, we started in 2007 with a representative office and looking especially in chassis and driveline components, because this is where we saw the biggest increase in sales opportunities. And so far over the last few years, we really saw a steady growth in our aftermarket business. If you look at road conditions, of course, shock absorber, braking, and steering and suspension parts, what ZF is offering, has a good market opportunity.
So if we talk about specifics, we see a lot of transformation happening in transportation systems. Car, buses, everything is moving towards autonomous and semi-autonomous. What kind of opportunity for component makers comes up, and what kind of challenges coming up? Because we see a lot of joint venture tie-ups happening between two companies which were not traditionally related, like Google, Uber, and all that. So how it is going to pan out for component manufacturers?
I think the challenge is that you have to be present in the traditional market as well as venture out into the new opportunities. Because I believe selling hard parts, mechanical parts alone will not do the job in the future. The combination of electronics and mechanical parts will be crucial. And if you also look ahead in the future for aftermarket, is the access to data. And that's why what you said earlier, that other non-automotive players entering the automotive segment, the key will be how we manage, how we will have access to the data. I think that is looking at the future, a crucial factor in order to be successful if it comes to vehicle maintenance, if it comes to when and where a vehicle should be repaired on that.
So traditionally for a manufacturer it was that you should have designing capability, you should have R&D capability. Now it's going beyond this. You need to have data backup, you need to analyze the market, and what are the others challenges or area where you think that component manufacturers should evolve themselves?
I think it's about linking both sides. We as ZF have a long experience in manufacturing components and systems. So now linking that with the data world and providing solutions for the product portfolio, system solutions for autonomous driving, for active and passive safety, and also for efficiency. I think this link between what you had in the past and what you need to provide in the future is crucial. But of course, still, there are a lot of trends out there. And it's still, depending on the market, which trend will materialize first. I think electrification of the vehicle is coming. The time frame for autonomous driving probably be depending on the regions. So this is, I think, crucial for a manufacturer. Where do you put your focus on in order, let's say, to be successful?
India has one of the highest, accident death rates, and a lot has been been reason because of the counterfeit automotive products. What has been the trend in other emerging markets in Asia Pacific, like China and other markets like Vietnam, like Indonesia and all? So how are they coping up with this, and what kind of strategy the component makers can adopt here to stay away from this? How they can marry technology to fight this a big issue that we have in India?
We have experience in that, and you talked market like in ASEAN or in China. I think there are two things what should happen in the market. One is consumer education, and I think a show like Automechanica will also help the workshops to get awareness of what will happen, especially if you use a safety part, if you use false brake pads or copy shock absorber, what could happen. So it's education, is awareness for the drivers and for the workshop. That's one side. But we as a manufacturer also have a responsibility to do actions against counter or fake manufacturers, and we did some actions together with the authorities in some of the emerging markets, and then also make the campaigns aware in the media to say we take actions about that. And last but not least, of course, we're also trying to mark our products and advise workshops to buy from authorized distributors in order to ensure that they buy the original spare parts.
As ZF, what is your plan of expansion in aftermarket? Because there are companies like Bosch, they have huge, share of revenue coming from aftermarket. For ZF, how important aftermarket is becoming, and what percentage of your total revenue is going to come from aftermarket?
Aftermarket is crucial. It's about 10% of our total revenue sales coming from aftermarket.
Globally?
Globally. And I think what is important is now that ZF and TRW merged. So we are already operating as one aftermarket organization, ZF Aftermarket globally, combining the product range of ZF and TRW to really have an attractive product portfolio for active and passive safety, driveline and chassis components.
What are the new product range that you are going to have in aftermarket? If you could give some specifics.
Yeah, beside our traditional products, braking, shock absorber, driveline and powertrain components, we launched in India OpenMatics as a telematics platform, an open platform for truck and bus fleet operators. Because what I said earlier, we will move away from just selling spare parts towards the trend how we operate with data, providing for preventive maintenance, providing also a platform for entertainment purposes in the public bus sector. So we just launched OpenMatics in India as a new brand for the Indian market as well.
So going forward, what is your revenue target from aftermarket globally?
Well, we will launch the 2016 numbers end of the month, so therefore let's say I can't conclude the numbers.
No, only that. From aftermarket.
But of course, for we want to have a double-digit growth, let's say, especially in the developing markets like India and other parts of Asia. Because if you see that, number one, the vehicle market is growing in India and in China, but also the age of the vehicle is going up. So that means there is a higher demand for independent aftermarket spare parts, but also for repair business.
So you have 10% of revenue coming from aftermarket?
I didn't specify the percentage on that, but of course the expectation also to my team here is certainly a double-digit growth on that.
No, globally, what is your revenue share from aftermarket?
I said before, we have about, it's 2.8 billion based on 2050 numbers, was for aftermarket.
And how do you look at, do you expect to double it in next few years?
We need to substantially...
As you are expanding and diversifying into new range of products.
There is, using the synergies between of a combined aftermarket organization, we will substantially grow our business and aftermarket business.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.